are going to start with the male reproductive system. We'll go through all of the anatomy, so each organ in the reproductive system for males and the function of each of those organs. And then we will talk about the physiology of the male reproductive system, or how it works. This is what the internal anatomy and the external anatomy of the male reproductive system looks like. We'll go over all of these organs in the next few slides. We will start with the penis. The penis is the male external sex organ. It is the tube-shaped organ that extends from the trunk of the body just above the testicles and is used for two purposes, both for reproduction and to pass urine. There is also this tube in the very middle of the penis, which is called the urethra, which is the passageway for urine and semen to exit the body. The penis is made up of a spongy material that fills up with extra blood or becomes erect when sexually aroused. It is also all muscle, so when it is erect or hard and stiff, it cannot break off because there is no bone in the penis. The penis does grow during puberty, as does the rest of the body, so it grows proportional to someone's body, and size will vary from person to person, which is completely normal. Everybody is different. There's also this foreskin located on the end of the penis, and it retracts during an erection. That foreskin can also partially be removed in a procedure called a circumcision. And circumcision occurs for many different reasons. It's not a necessary procedure, so someone doesn't need to have that foreskin removed from the penis, but it's often done for religious or cultural reasons or hygienic reasons. It's usually done soon after birth. Some males are circumcised, some are not, but it doesn't affect the function of the penis either way. I will say, though, that if the penis has not been circumcised, it is necessary to clean the area beneath the foreskin of the penis on a regular basis. And this is important to help reduce urinary infections and cancer of the penis from occurring. The scrotum is the external skin sac that holds the testicles. And its basic function is to regulate the temperature of the testicles because the testes can only produce sperm at temperature slightly cooler than body temperature. So the scrotum will pull the testicles closer to the body if they are cold and lowers them away from the body if they are too hot. The testes, also called the testicles, are two small glands that secrete testosterone, which is the male sex hormone, and produce sperm, which are the male reproductive cells. It's normal for one testicle or testes to hang lower than the other, and it is a very sensitive area of the body. So it's important to protect this area when playing contact sports. In particular, some males have only one testicle. It's completely normal. A person can live with one, they can live with none. They just won't be able to reproduce. The epididymis are the two structures located on top of the testicles. And I always think, or I had a student in the past tell me it kind of looked like cottage cheese, so that's now how I always remember it. So it kind of looks like cottage cheese. And once the sperm is made in the testicles, it goes up into the epididymis where it is stored and matured. So sperm can't reproduce or can't fertilize an egg until it is fully mature. It does take a couple of months, usually 4 to 6 months, for that sperm to actually mature. And the sperm can be stored in the epididymis for several months, but will die if they're not ejaculated. That's really not a problem, though, if they do die and are reabsorbed by the body, because males produce millions and millions and millions of sperm every single day. On average, a male will ejaculate 700 million sperm in one ejaculation, whether it be during sexual activity or sexual arousal or during a wet dream. So it's really not a problem if some of them die off because they are already reproducing or creating a lot of them for just one ejaculation. So sperm will stay in the epididymis where it's stored until an erection occurs. Once an erection occurs during sexual arousal, that sperm will travel through the rest of the male system. So the first place it goes through is this vas deferens, and that is this passageway that connects to the urethra for sperm to move through. There are typically 2 of them if a male has 2 testicles, although if a male only has 1, then they may only have 1 vas deferens. So the walls of the vas deferens are lined with those tiny hair-like structures that I've talked about a couple times this trimester called cilia. And the cilia kind of wave in that vas deferens and help the sperm move. The walls of the vas deferens also contract to help move that sperm through the system. As the sperm is moving through the vas deferens to exit the body, it hooks up with 3 different glands, and it's important that it does so. So the first gland that the sperm will meet up with is the seminal vesicles. So you can see that right here in the side view. They're located right behind the bladder if we look at the front view. And this is a small gland that releases a sugar that helps nourish the sperm and help them move. The second gland that the sperm meets up with is the prostate gland. There's only one of these in the male system. It's located right underneath the bladder. It's actually where those 2 vas deferens connect. And this gland also produces a fluid that helps keep the sperm alive. If the sperm did not get this fluid from the prostate gland, the sperm would die and they would not potentially move on to reproduce. The last gland that sperm meets up with is called the Cowper's gland. This gland also has another name. It's also known as the bulbourethral gland. And you'll find that if you ever take an anatomy and physiology class, if that's a direction you're going into with a career, you'll find that a lot of anatomy parts of the human body have multiple names. I don't know why they do this. It's actually kind of annoying that they do it because it makes it harder to remember. But this one does have 2 names. So it's referred to as the Cowper's gland or the bulbourethral gland. So it's located right on top of the trunk of the penis. There are 2 of these typically. And this is a small gland that secretes a third fluid. It's a clear lubricating fluid into the urethra. And essentially what that does is it allows the sperm to move through the urethra and outside the body. So again, it's that lubricating fluid that helps the sperm move. So the fluid that comes from the seminal vesicles, the prostate gland, and the Cowper's gland mix with sperm and make up that milky white fluid that we call semen. And it's important to remember that without even one of these fluids produced by these glands, the sperm would die. So they would not make it outside of the body to fertilize an egg. The urethra, which is located inside of the penis, is that passageway for sperm and urine to leave the body. However, they cannot leave at the same time. There are actually 2 branches to the urethra, one from the bladder and one from the vas deferens. So if you look at the side view, this is the one from the vas deferens, and then you can see the one connecting the bladder to the urethra. What happens when the penis is ready to release semen is there's a valve that blocks off this branch to the bladder. So it actually prevents urine from escaping while the semen is exiting the body. This is very similar to the difference between swallowing and breathing. So air goes into our lungs, but when we want to swallow food or our spit, for example, a flap actually goes over the opening of our windpipe in our throat to swallow food. So it's a very similar process. Lastly, the bladder is the sac that holds urine that's produced by the kidneys. Technically, the bladder is not part of the reproductive system, but I always do point it out because we can see it in all the diagrams, and it is in that general area. So just as review, sperm is made in the testicles. It goes up into the epididymis where it is stored and matured. When a male is aroused, it will travel through the rest of the system. So the sperm goes through the vas deferens, hooks up with the seminal vesicle, which releases that fluid, goes through the prostate gland, which releases another fluid, and goes past the bulbourethral or Cowper's gland that releases that lubricating fluid into the urethra and through the urethra and out of the body. Same is over there. Same pathway.